Yeah.
Famous Marina.
Famous or infamous?
I like to
I'm
take
well.
photos.
Do you have an ink pen I can use?
There's probably one up
Oh.
at the table.
Okay.
I don't think I'm. Hi. How are you? Last month. You look familiar, Allison and Denny. Thanks for coming back. Yeah, nice to see your faces. Yes.
Works for me. I gotta run home and change.
After?
And then go sit up there too.
It'll already be in the car. It'll already be in the car.
The drums are in the car.
But I'll lift you.
I like my
I didn't know what to expect. I thought it was you know, Southern Utah. And it's been a lot of them. Morning. Yeah. Mom, I want to sit back here. I think she can hear better. Trying to find space.
This is just. When are you guys going on your motorcycle ride, Rick?
I'm doing one. I'm leaving Saturday.
Is that the southern route one you're talking about?
No, I'm going to
Thank you.
Spain, Italy, and up to Prague.
You're not gonna have to rent a boat to get across that water in Ukraine, huh?
Yeah. It'll be fun. I always get a little scared in front of it, but I get out there and
Once you get in it, it's.
Well, I wish this was a classroom, but you guys are ready to go already before the teacher's ready, so awesome.
Do you need me right there right now?
Yes, we need you right here.
No, you can wait until after the talk during the class.
The guitar works.
It's very quiet in
Should I wait till 11? You guys are so attentive.
here. I know. Wait till 11.
Give us attention.
28 seconds.
Tell me when, baby.
1 minute left.
Okay.
Anybody? Oh, Tim knows it. It's so quirky.
She's hiding.
I do.
I do.
Yeah. So Why was the strawberry all stressed out?
I don't know why.
He was in a jam.
Okay, you can start, Cheryl.
We are so grateful that you're here today. It's amazing. Look at me getting emotional. It's amazing to be in person. So we are thrilled that you are here. You are welcome here, just the way you are. No more hiding tears, no more covering scars. You are welcome, holy welcome. You are welcome here, just the way you want to be. Bring your deepest hopes and all your wildest dreams. You are welcome, holy welcome, holy welcome. And now I'm going to give you the chance to just sing along. Some of you might remember this from back in the day when we were in person. I felt a divine in you. Feel your light, see it shining through. I am grateful you are here today. Good morning, friend, namaste. I bow to the joy in you. I feel your bliss, see it shining through. We are grateful you are here today. Good morning, friend, namaste. I bow to the love in you. I feel your heart, see it shining through. I am grateful you are here today. Good morning, friend, namaste. I bow to the truth in you. Feel your spark, see it shining through. I am grateful you are here today. Good morning, friend, namaste. Good morning, all, namaste. And now, revjoe would like to welcome you officially.
Officially.
This fine Sunday morning.
Let's give Shay a round of applause. How great is it to hear that in person? You know, hearing that on the through my computer speakers does not do that justice at all. And it's been too long. So thanks to everyone here to make this possible for all of us. And welcome. I am revjoe Kovach, currently presiding in Las Vegas. But good news is my provisional license got passed, so I can at least start applying for jobs. Spirit's working at its best. I thank that. I welcome each one of you. What I'm going to ask right now is for Shay to play a little instrument music and let us welcome each other. Get up, stand up, welcome each other. Namaste means I honor you and recognize you. And Shay, take it away, and I'm going to walk around and say hello. Everybody, please join us in the welcome. All right, I want to ask everybody to begin to return to their seats.
Good to see you.
How you doing, James? Hey, Chris. Hey.
Thank you. Thank you. Am I on? Check. There we go. A little hot. Thank you for the morning. So welcome. I do want to ask, I'm curious, is anybody here for the very first time? You're brave to raise your hands. Excellent. I'm going to ask you how you heard of us, but I think I have an idea.
Yeah, I was going to CSL in Seattle.
Okay. Excellent. Well, welcome. It's Rick, correct?
Yes.
All right. And young lady in the back?
Hi, I'm T. I'm Barb's friend. She wanted to come to me in person, so I joined along.
Well, welcome. Anyone else? I mean, Bruce in the back. Yes, ma'am.
Crystal Anderson, I've been online for a couple times.
Yes. Okay. Good to see you in person. See, everybody looks so different than that little box on the wall. I'm telling you. I remember when I first went. So it's first of all, it's been a year since I was hired as your senior minister. So thank you. It's been my pleasure. We have one more new one. Oh, okay, yeah.
Christina from Claremont, California.
Okay, welcome. Claremont. Okay. Do you attend a center there?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Who's the senior minister out
I
there?
don't know, because it's been a number of years.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
So, so it's been a year, crazy. I was just thinking about the monitor thing, and so the first gathering, the Saturday gathering that I showed up to in person, I was dressed casually, and Mr. Allen here shared that he thought I was a biker walking up and was a little concerned. So, it's nice to see you in person. So we're going to move into an honoring ceremony that we do called Lighting the Flames of Faith. We perform the flames of faith. Yes, we perform the flames of faith ceremony to promote the universal consciousness of life, which acknowledges that all peoples and all things, all beings come from the one great universal presence, which we call spirit. So we first light the unity candle, which represents the unifying nature of all religions, religious thought, and experience, which we honor here today. We light a candle for the shamanic traditions, honoring the beliefs and practices of all indigenous peoples, the way of primal spirituality. We light a candle for Hinduism, honoring the path of knowledge, action, and devotion. We light a candle for the Tao, honoring the universal path of harmony and equilibrium, the natural way. We light a candle for Judaism, honoring the ethical path of living sacred law. We light a candle for all forms of Buddhism, honoring the Four Noble Truths and the path of compassion. We light a candle for Christianity, honoring the Christ consciousness as the path of love. We light a candle for all forms of Islam, honoring the path of compliance with the will of God as the highest calling. We light a candle acknowledging religious science and all forms of new thought, the metaphysical path of mental healing through the practice of universal spiritual principle. And we light the next candle for inclusivity, affirming that all are welcome here, including those who have not yet found their faith. And lastly, we light the healing candle and invite you to silently offer into the light the names of loved ones, knowing that they are now the perfect expression of Spirit's eternal wholeness and love. Shay.
So my prayer meet partner, practitioner Anita Chef, is going to come, and we're just going to get in that space, right? Just find your heart space, feel the energy in the room. And I'm going to go through this song, Anita's going to pray. Sorry, and then we can sing together. Come together, heart and soul, as we love together. Young and old, we will sing together, together in one song. Come together, from different worlds we are drawn together. In our own way we can pray together. Together we are strong. I see God in you. You see God in me. One path, one vision, one family.
So as we come together today, we do it with great joy, great excitement, and beautiful harmony. I invite you to let my words of prayer be your own. For we know that there is only one mind, one presence, one power, one infinite intelligence. And I call this thing God. For there isn't a word big enough to ever describe it. And I call this thing life. I know that there is one life, it is my life, and it is the life of every person here, every person anywhere. And so we celebrate this life today. We celebrate it, we sing in harmony, we find the balance of our mind, our body, our spirit, and it harmonizes us with all of the earth. And so this is a celebration of joy today. I know that Reverend Joe's words touch each one in a unique and individual way. I know that the music touches us, and we are so blessed. Just simply by the presence of each one here. For when we look into each other's eyes, we see the divine. And so I know this service unfolds perfectly, and I give great thanks for that. And let us say together, and so it is.
I invite you to sing along. Come together. Come together. Dreams in hand, we will join together. Build a place we can grow together. Together we are home. I see God in you. You see God in me. One path, one vision, one family. Come together, heart and soul, as we love together. Young and old, we will sing together, And now I'm going to pass it back to Anita to share our sacred reading today.
So today's reading, I have taken a little excerpt from this book, Consolations, The Solace, Nourishment, and Underlying Meaning of Everyday Words by David White. And I really appreciated his writing because he talks about grief and joy, and he doesn't sugarcoat grief. But he gives us solace as a way to move between grief and joy without invalidating either one. Solace is the art of asking the beautiful question of ourselves, of our world, or of one another in fiercely difficult and unbeautiful moments. Solace is what we must look for when the mind cannot bear the pain, the loss, or the suffering that eventually touches every life and every endeavor. When longing does not come to fruition in a form we can recognize. When people we know and love disappear. When hope must take a different form than the one we have shaped for it. Solace is the beautiful, imaginative home we make where disappointment can go to be rehabilitated. When life does not in any way add up, we must turn to the part of us that has never wanted a life of simple calculation. Solace is found in allowing the body's innate wisdom to come to the fore. The part of us that already knows it is mortal and must take its lead like everything else, and leading us when the mind cannot bear what it is seeing or hearing, to the bird song in the tree above our heads. Solace is not an evasion nor a cure for our suffering, not a made-up state of mind. Solace is a direct seeing and participation, a celebration of the beautiful coming and going, appearance and disappearance, of which we have always been a part. Solace is not meant to be an answer, but an invitation through the door of pain and difficulty, to the depth of suffering and simultaneous beauty in the world that the strategic mind by itself cannot grasp nor make sense of. How will you shape a life equal to and as beautiful and as astonishing as a world that can birth you, bring you into the light, and then, just as you're beginning to understand it, take you away?
Thank you so much, Anita. So CSLs across the globe are living out loud this year. That's our global theme. And this month, we are embracing self-care. And this week, Joe's going to look at balancing grief and joy. In the book The Prophet, mystic poet Khalil Gibran, he wrote, "Your joy is your sorrow unmasked. And the self-same well from which your laughter rises was oftentimes filled with your tears. How else can it be? The deeper that sorrow carves into your being, the more joy you can contain." And Ernest Holmes adds this beautiful thought: there's something in you and me that transcends tragedy and sorrow and grief and loss. Power perennially springs from the innermost recesses of that unborn reality, which is evermore being born in us today. This is the glory of our work. This is the power of what we do. This is the presence of the living spirit that we adore. And isn't that the case, right? The ebb and flow of life is what inspires the poets and the painters and the songwriters. Stevie Nicks wrote this song after an album that she had worked really faithfully and passionately on, was not received very well. And it was before Fleetwood Mac got together. And she was just expounding this loss, and little did she know that about a year later, Fleetwood Mac would be formed, and this would be one of the most popular and well-loved songs. This is Lance White. I took my love and I took it down. Climbed a mountain and I turned around, and I saw my reflection in the snow-covered hills, till the landslide brought me down. Oh, mirror in the sky, what is love? Can the child within my heart rise above? Can I sail through the changing ocean tides? Can I handle the seasons of my life? Well, I've been afraid of changing, 'cause I build my life around you. But time makes you bolder, even children get older. I'm getting older too. Well, I've been afraid of changing, 'cause I build my life around you. But time makes you bolder, even children get older, and I'm getting older too. Oh, I'm getting older too. Take my love and take it down. Climb a mountain and I turn around, and if you see my reflection in the snow-covered hills, then a landslide will bring you down. And if you see my reflection in the snow-covered hills, well, a landslide will bring you down. A landslide will bring you down.
Yeah, keep it going for Shay. Beautiful, beautiful. I love the emotion in that song. It was perfect and beautiful. So, good morning. Is it afternoon here? No, 1 hour ahead still. We're good, right? Time change thing. I'm constantly getting my meetings messed up. So, good morning and welcome. Last week, as you heard, we're talking about the balancing between grief and joy. And while it's a more peppy subject than last month's was of shadow and light and dark and so forth, I'm going to keep this one equally as light and in a sense entertaining, because it's really easy for us to get caught up in the grief and go down there. I don't want you to go down there today. I want you to understand that everything has its beautiful place. And last week I had a little homework for you. I asked you to pay attention to how you were taking care of yourself. So I'm actually asking you, and I'm looking for an answer. I have two questions. The first one is, how many of you feel like you've become more aware of how well you are taking care of yourself? Anything specific you did this week that maybe was different or you haven't done in a while to take care of yourself? Yes, Barb?
I chose to clean my yard because my landscaper hadn't. And I wanted it clean. And so I see that as self-care. And it took 5 hours and it was well worth it.
And so the after effect of how you felt was?
Joy.
Joy.
Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. So now I'm going to ask this very similar question. How many of you are aware through this week of how well you are not taking care of yourself? Some of us are raising your hands. Thank you for being courageous enough to recognize that. So yes, this is why this is an important topic, because so many of us, it's really easy to focus on what's not going right, the pain, the agony, the discomfort, and not even want to begin to balance out and, yeah, I know joy, happiness, that's over there. It takes a lot of work, and right now it's so much easier for me to sit in this. But what we know is this can be shifted. And that's one of the main things we teach is how do we get to from a place of where we're not liking it to a place of where we can feel balance, where there is that ebb and that flow. We know that nothing stays the same too long, but can we feel like we're on a path where we can manage? And we do this mainly through the idea of self-awareness, and that's why the homework last week was becoming more self-aware of what our thoughts were, how our feelings are, how simply spending some time outdoors and doing something, I'm going to point out, Barb could have easily sat home and complained and made some calls and yelled at some people about why stuff wasn't getting done, and maybe you did that beforehand, but, right, that was the grief. And then she took action, she changed her thoughts, empowered herself, and ended up where she wanted to be, and it was that experience of the shift. And that's a perfect example. We didn't do this beforehand, I'll pay you later. But it's a perfect example of what we're going to talk a little more in depth today. Let us begin, as all things, in recognizing that we begin with spiritual perfection, our unlimited nature of our divine self. Now, I recognize there's some new people here and some people that haven't been here for a long time, and especially in person, I really want to bring it home with regards to who are we? Who is Centers for Spiritual Living? And so our first slide, that's me, and that's our talk. There we go. And I have these up here. You can listen to me or not. I do this I'm a visual person, so I like to see things even when I'm listening. But it said, and now all these quotes are from our founder, Ernest Holmes, but none of these were published, so you probably have not heard these before. Religious science is not the special revelation of any individual. It is rather the culmination of many revelations. We take the good wherever we find it, making it our own insofar as we, each individually, understand it. The realization that good is universal and that as much good as any individual is able to incorporate in his or her life is his or hers to use, and is what constitutes the science of mind and spirit. So, religious science often gets caught up with Scientology. We are not that. Bless them where they are. But it's one of the reasons we switched to Centers for Spiritual Living. But I am a minister of religious science, and I'm a very proud minister of religious science. And it's been since February 28th, was a year. So I am just on my path. But one of the reasons why I want to stand up here and profess this is the faith that I have not only learned through books, but put into action, and I'm absolutely certain for me in this moment that this is the best journey that I could be on for me. And I want to let you know, wherever journey you are on, that's perfect, and I guarantee that this message and what we do is part of that journey. It may have different words. You may call what we call spirit or God different things, yet we do believe it all comes from one beautiful story. And I'm going to say story because why? Because no matter who reads the story individually, they get something different. But it is a source. It is a loving source. And so I believe what Ernest Holmes, our founder, was saying about this idea of our faith, and we don't look at him as a prophet like many other religions have. He is our founder, and he was a very wise person. He studied worldwide religions, ethnicities, cultures, and philosophies, ancient wisdom, I said wisdom before, but all of that. And he didn't focus on one. He listened for what he called the divine truth in everything that he studied. And then it culminated in what we now call religious science. Funny enough, though, he didn't want it to be a religion. It was his followers and his supporters that said, you've spent your whole life learning this, let's keep it around for a while. And that's the basis of religious science. Another quote that's unpublished, he says this. He says, science of mind and spirit makes a tremendous claim when it states that it can free the individual from bondage of sickness, poverty, and unhappiness. But it makes this statement without hesitation and without qualification. It does not retract from that claim, and it never will. Think about for a moment how someone can believe in something so strongly. And again, go back to what I just said. He spent his life uncovering this, what he calls spiritual truth. And not just because it sounded good, but because he could prove it. That's where when we use the word practitioner, Anita, who spoke and gave our prayer, is a practitioner. She practices our faith. And that also means it's not just we do it and we don't get results. We expect everyone to be able to live a life free of bondage, of sickness, of poverty, and unhappiness. And in fact, we're going to get into that. That's actually one of our principles of what we believe. So what is important is our minds are intelligent. And even if we're not aware of it, and often we're not aware of what we know, we're often aware of what we don't know. If I begin to tell myself I can get over grief or a trauma, but I don't hold the faith in that, then chances are it's either not going to happen or not happen in the speed and likelihood that you would want it to. And at the same time, if I'm telling myself and I'm telling you, you can change your life no matter where you are at, I better be darn sure that these aren't just words I'm reading off of my notes. Because I'm not here to set anybody up, and I never wanted to be set up, that's for sure. And being raised Roman Catholic, it took a lot of courage and faith to walk away from something that everybody else told me I was crazy from. And I blessed that faith and I blessed that time. But for me, I outgrew that. There was something more that I needed to find. And the messages weren't coming from that. Now, I don't believe that there is no spiritual truth in Catholicism or Christianity. That's not what I'm saying. And that was part of my journey getting here. So, furthermore, again, the idea right now is to anchor in that what I'm saying, I mean. And by coming here each and every week, I hope that you get to that level where I'm at least now. And I hope when you get there, I'm even a little higher. Because I know that there's no end to the joy, to the gladness, to the health, to the wealth, to the prosperity that we can each individually have. And yet, Ernest Holmes says, it's up to us. So that's that idea of responsibility. It's up to us. He next says this. He says, Science of Mind offers the greatest courses we have ever had. I said to you, if I could persuade everyone in this room to take this course, we would have a couple of thousand of the most emancipated people in the world. And if they knew what was offered them, they would demand it. And I'm talking about you. So before it became a religion, an organized religion, he went around and gave talks and courses. And people would sign up and take them because they wanted to change their lives. This is way back, 40s, 50s, even earlier, right? 30s as well. And so, in a sense, we're still doing that today. I stand up here and I talk, and I want my efforts is to inspire what you already have, to let you know that any grief cannot hold you back. And sometimes it's almost foo-foo to say, well, you can be, do, or have anything you want, but that is an absolute truth that I believe in. Now, it doesn't mean we're going to wave a magic wand, walk out the door, and there it is. Maybe someday we'll get to that point, but I know right now it does take some efforts. And that's why this is a philosophy as much as it is a religion. It is a way of life. If you don't practice it, nothing will necessarily come to you. It is about changing consciousness. It is about our thoughts. And as Barb gave a perfect example, it's also about our feelings. So it's thought, and how am I feeling about that thought? Hold in mind the grief and the joy, and that balance. So when he says this, I'm talking about you. For me, using a Vegas term, Ernie was all in. He absolutely 100% believed in what he taught people, that when we are grieving, we're in trauma, that we have an all-in attitude as well. That's what his class is aligned to. And he had testimonial after testimonial of how people went from poverty to abundance. And now when we talk about prosperity, my friends, we're not talking just about money, because what we believe money is an effect. right? We talk about our thought, our consciousness. What we believe is what shows up in our reality. If we give our power to money, then we're giving our power away. But we recognize that all power comes from the one divine power. We can call it God again, Spirit, whatever makes you happy. And I mean that. Because there's still times I go back for me and I enjoy saying God the Father. Because I need that at that moment. Mother Mary. That idea of a loving presence. But what I know is this idea and this presence of God is so, I'm going to use the word large, right? We can't put, any name we put on it is going to limit it. There's no way. But what I do know is it's an indwelling presence that each of us knows personally. To me, that is inspiring. Because so often I kept trying to look to other people to tell me what God was, what is life about. And I went outside. I didn't, what does that do? I don't trust myself. But if we're going to get to a place of balancing, I have to understand what I'm being told, what I believe, which is it's all one anyway, and how I choose to look at something matters. That yet means you matter. Each one of you matter. What you think matters. And it takes some work. Work in the sense of spending time and effort. I'm sure that when Barb went out, I'm just going to keep using Barb, it's your fault. That when she first went out there, probably wasn't the joy that she was feeling in the beginning. She's out there going, I pay for this money, I want to pay association fees. Why aren't they doing this? All I got to do is come here and do this. I've called them and I've asked them. There is a journey of work to shift how we look at things. And so when we're looking at grief and joy, we're not going to sugarcoat it. Pain is pain. It comes in many flavors. But what we choose to believe is that there is joy inside that pain. That it all comes back to that love, and love is a big word. It can be defined many ways, and if I ask each one of you what love is, I'm going to get a different definition, and that's okay as well. So within, there's one more quote I want to share. Last quote from Ernest Holmes. He says he says, there are two fundamental truths we cannot get away from. There is nothing in the universe but action and reaction, and the polarity between these two. The action is spontaneous combustion of an infinite personalness, which we do not comprehend, so we call it God. The reaction is law. And there is not anything else because all relationships and all creations are as established by the polarity between the two. So let me understand polarity. He's simply saying between two poles, between the having and the not having, the quote good and the quote bad. I believe there's a you and a me when we also recognize it's all oneness. But we function, we live in this action and reaction. And he believes, again, I love how he says that there, he calls God an infinite personalness. That's the only way we're getting to know what God is to know it through our own experience. Do we have the courage to get to know that presence and claim it as ours? Because it's going to show up different for everybody. And so this infinite personalness, which we do not comprehend, and again, we may not comprehend it through a fully, I'm going to say, through understand, but we can begin to understand it through what we call universal law, spiritual law. And again, what is that? That's all fancy words through understanding how we believe the universe works, like we understand the law of attraction. What once was thought as foo-foo is now scientifically proven at the quantum level, that our consciousness has a direct impact on how things show up in our lives individually. That has been proven through science. So it's not foo-foo. It is if you want to believe it. And that's the fun part about this, right? Is we each kind of get to turn the knob about how much I'm going to take this in today. How much is, I don't know, he's saying this. And take what feels comfortable. If you get to this place of what I call resistance, then you're already pushing back. Pushing back is just going to get you more of what you don't want. So that's okay. Be comfortable where you're at. And so again, the polarity, today we're talking about the two poles of joy and grief. And so now let's focus in a little bit more on what we're actually talking about, the subjects of grief. I pulled a definition off of the internet, which I thought was good. And it says, grief is the anguish experienced is the anguish experienced after significant loss, usually the death of a beloved person. Grief often includes physiological distress, physically, separation anxiety, confusion, yearning, obsessive dwelling on the past, and apprehension about the future. Should I go on? Intense grief can become life-threatening through the disruption of the immune system, self-neglect, and suicidal thoughts. Grief may also take the form of regret for something lost, remorse for something done, or sorrow for something that we did, a mistake. All right, does that cover a whole lot of what we go through on a daily basis? How many of us would recognize that we're living often from a place of grief? Raise your hand for me right now. Yeah. So this isn't like, we don't just look at it as Grandpa Joe died and I'm feeling some sadness. Okay? We experience that all the time. Even, and I have to acknowledge, with the move up here, there's a distress, even though it would be a positive move from Las Vegas to St. George. There's a distress in shifting because I'm shifting everything I know and everything I'm comfortable with. So my body is going to feel it. My emotions are going to feel that. So this is this idea of grief. Now, I guarantee you, if I ask each and every one of you what grief is, you're going to have a perfect experience that you would say, this is grief. And what I want to teach you is we don't have to be stuck in it. As a matter of fact, we can go through the grief and come out with the joy on the other side without ever making grief wrong. So what is joy? Quote from Joy from Ernest Holmes. He says, if you would catch the vision of joy, which would be yours, you must dry your tears. You must lay aside your fears. You must think from the inspirational center within you, which is nothing less than the divine in you singing its song of life. So we are each a divine song of life. That's what we came here to do, to live that song, to be a physical expression of that song. That's what everyone that has ever lived is technically trying to do, but so many of us, we get misguided ideas and support on the way, and then we're not taught to empower ourselves. And this is the time of the Great Reawakening, that we realize we can each tap into that infinite intelligence and change the lives we're living. And how it changes is up to us. Another quote I wanted to share underneath that. There we go. This is Teilhard de Chardin. Says, joy is the most infallible sign of the presence of God. So when we're joyful, we're feeling a greater degree of what we would say God is. But can we balance that out on the other side when I'm in grief and still say I'm feeling God? I'm feeling the presence here and now in this state of grief when things aren't the way we want them to be. And recognizing the only way to get to joy is through grief. Now, I shared with you before some of the one of the we believe statements. I want to re-anchor us in some key ideas of what Ernest Holmes says we believe, because it's going to play into this idea of balancing. He says, we believe the ultimate goal of life to be free, to be a complete freedom from all discord of every nature, and that this goal is sure to be attained by all. Do you know what discord means? Good, thank you. So discord simply means when we're not receiving, when we're not in a place, we're against what we don't want. So I'm feeling, this isn't working out for me. So when you're struggling with a test, my dear one, that's discord. I don't want to be here. Oh, I want to get that test done, so I'm in a state of stress. The only way to get to that is through it. And even though we're talking about education here, everybody has a test every day. Every day I wake up, I get tested. Like on the way up here again, yet again, today, driving. I'm going 100, chasing somebody down before my wife said, maybe you should just let him go. And he put us in severe harm's way. He passed me on the right as I was already trying to pass somebody and literally came within inches of cutting me off, and then just slowed down up ahead, which really irritated me. So that's discord. That's anger, right? And I recognize and I'm having this internal argument about what kind of reverend you're going to talk and inspire people, and you're cursing this guy out and chasing him 100 miles an hour in an Astro van. Who are you going to catch? Seriously. Took me a little bit. I'm better than I used to be. That's something we have to remind ourselves frequently. We're better than we used to be. All right, so the next thing. He says, this is again from what we believe. And somebody last month asked me, was talking to me about kind of, he liked the message, comes from a different denomination and had some like questions about a little deeper. And I pointed him to, if you search up the Science of Mind or Religious Science, What We Believe, you'll see the full list. So second is we believe in the unity of all life and that the highest God and the innermost God is one God. We believe that God is personal to all who feels this indwelling presence. I love this because I don't have to believe in God if you believe in. I get to do it my way. And is that selfish? Absolutely. Absolutely. You're here to be selfish with the capital S, to recognize your divine self, and that you came here specifically for a specific reason to sing your song. You're not here to sing somebody else's song. This inspires me. The last one I want to share with you, it says, we believe in the direct revelation of truth through our intuitive and spiritual nature, and that anyone may become a revealer of truth who lives in close contact with the indwelling spirit. So what this says is the more you practice what we what we preach and what we teach, you will see direct revelation simply means you're going to get what you want. I want to have a life more of ease. I want to be more well. I want that balance. I want clarity. I want peace. That's all attainable for each one in this room. Yes?
Yes.
All right. That's inspiring to me. I didn't get this message early on. And I'm thrilled to be able to share this with everyone I know. So, balance. Leave that for a minute. So we're trying to find balance between the two, and balance is finding peace by accepting where you are while things aren't so great in that moment. Meaning I could find, eventually, that I could still see that driver ahead of me. I still had certain thoughts for that driver, but I was in a better place of peace knowing that I was acting much more rationally because I was putting my family more in danger than he had, combined. So, it's about understanding that, yes, we're going to be through times walking down paths that we don't want to go to, but recognizing, I kind of put myself here. I chose somehow, some way. And even if you didn't, perhaps, okay, recognizing that you have the power, the choice, the consciousness to decide how that feels for you. How does this faith feel for you? And what does that balance look like? So the quote on the board from Peva Chodron, did I say her name right? I always screwed up. Yeah. Chodron, right? I didn't double correct myself. She says, things falling apart is a kind of testing and also a kind of healing. We think that the point is to pass the test or overcome the problem, but the truth is that things don't really get solved. They come together and they fall apart. Then they come together again and they fall apart again. It's just like that. The healing comes from letting there be room for all of this to happen. Room for grief, room for relief, for misery, for joy. So, who's ready to begin to let it all in? Because here's what I know to be true. If I say no to something, I'm taking that in a sense of I'm casting that outside of what I believe God is. But we believe God is everything. But we kind of, through our individual lenses of our consciousness, we kind of sometimes skew the lens a little bit. And we don't see the joy in a situation. And sometimes we're hyper-focused because we're living in this exact now moment. But if we find ourselves in balance, we can kind of pull ourselves back to what I call that satellite view. And I can see, oh my God, if I didn't go here and do that, I would have never gotten to that joy that I was looking for the whole time anyway. And so it's believing that you are where you're supposed to be, that we're divinely guided, and we're not on our own. We talk a lot about this is an individual journey. Well, we're not truly separate from each other. Right? When I talked about chasing that guy down, almost every one of you knew and felt what I was talking about. We've had that similar experience. And how neat is it when we come and talk about faith that we all have this idea of what faith is, and yet we all know it from our own individual experience. And so finding balance should be very similar. We don't have to get caught up in something as bad. If we label something bad, how can we find something good in something that we call bad? Grief, I want to avoid that. I don't want to avoid it. I know that it's going to be a difficult time. But I also know that I've grown through every difficult challenge in my life. Can anybody say they have not grown through a hard challenge? Now, we could say, I don't want to go through that again. That means you've learned the lesson, right? And there's so many quotes about finding the joy in everything. Wrap it up. Is that what you're saying? Okay. Thank you. All right, so a couple inspirational points. This idea of balancing. Sufism says, when the heart grieves for what it lost, the spirit rejoices over what it has left. So it's finding, okay, this is no longer available to me, this particular experience. That's the hardest part about dealing with death, is because we feel it's lost. Yes, we know we have this connection consciously, but it is different in this reality. And it's about coming to grips with that. Great quote from Mark Twain. He says, grief can take care of itself, but to get the full value of joy, you must have somebody to divide it with. Now, we can be joyful by ourselves. I guarantee you, Barb felt fantastic when she got done. But how good did it feel to share that with everybody? It makes it real, doesn't it? Yes. That's where this together comes in. That's where this unity comes in. That's where, when we talk about oneness, that's what we're talking about. All right. Einstein says, life is like riding a bicycle. To keep your balance, you must keep moving. Keep moving, wise. Happiness is not a matter of intensity, but of balance, order, rhythm, and harmony. All right. So, I'm going to wrap it up, but I got to share, this is the practical part of it. I don't know if you've ever heard of Mike Dooley. He's kind of famous in the New Thought area for many movies and books, and he also has the notes from the universe emails that you can sign up for, which are fantastic. And what he says about this idea is, he gives the example, if we're in grief, if we're in distress, think about floating on water. How hard is it really to float on water? If we get ourselves balanced, we're upheld. And in a sense, he says to use that same idea as that which we call God in the presence. If we just kind of let go and lean back, that we will be supported and we will go back to that natural state of balance because we're not getting involved in a sense. Like our small mind that's trying to figure everything out in the house, and half of that is not our business anyway. When we just let go and let God, as they say in recovery movement, that we return to that natural state of balance. So what did I have to do in my example of driving? I had to let that go. And then it was really easy. The further away he got, it was easier. So, we usually end with an affirmation. So, again, coming to conclude, the idea is not to avoid. The idea is to take in what you're able to take, to not do this alone. Yes, we have to change, be the ones to change our own thoughts, our own beliefs. We have to be aware of ourselves, but there's nothing wrong with getting help, okay? Especially through grieving times. Right now, we are recognizing, I work in schools, so I deal with trauma every single day. And I work at a school in Las Vegas, which deals with some of the worst, well, actually, that's horrible to say, some of the kids in most trauma. And when I say worst, meaning if they told you the stories, if I could share with some of you, I cry in my office certain days. I'll give you a glimpse of what these kids are going through. I had a student who was turning 18 in a few weeks, and I said, all right, you're a senior, you're kind of behind in credits. That's what we do at my school, is we help them catch up. And I said, so what is your goal in life? And he says, I don't have one. I said, well, what do you mean? And he says, honestly, he says, my whole life was trying to make it to 18 because I didn't think I'd live that long. What do you say to that? That's tough. Now, I say that not to make his grief more than ours, because grief is grief, pain is pain. Right? But we don't have to sit in it. We don't have to pitch a tent and stay there. There is joy. And are we open to learning? I tried to help him learn from his pain. I tried to teach him and work with him to get somewhere where he wants to be. Say, okay, you're here right now, but now that door's open. You're turning 18. Okay, what do you want to do with your life? And so many people that we run into out there have no idea that they even have a choice. We know better. Let's work together to live a life of balance, of joy. Okay, so affirmations. Why are affirmations important? It's like an exercise for the mind and consciousness. Okay? I like to work out almost every day. No comment. And so our minds will not jump from extremes. So again, it's slowly turning the dial up. And what affirmations help us do is point us in the direction and make things sound normal. Oh, I am perfect, whole, and complete. So this week's affirmation is simply, I now release all that no longer serves me, and I choose to embrace joy. Now, we can say that once and we can feel it. Or we can practice that all day long. And I promise you, if you practice this all day long with emotion, you will see the results that Ernest Holmes was talking about. Things will start choosing. Things are changing. They'll start showing up in your life. The right people, places, and circumstances will change for your better favor. I know that to be true. I'm hot.
Can we say it together?
Yeah, let's do that. We're in person now. That's right. Let's take advantage of that. I'm sorry. Thank you for that remembrance. I will start and just join in with me. You can come. I don't want to be blocking either of them. Here we go. Ready? I now release all that no longer serves me, and I choose to embrace joy. And so it is. Amen. And so closing with prayer, just knowing that each person present is abundant joy being expressed, is in their perfect state of balance, is understanding of their divine worth, that there's nothing they have to be, do, or have. And on the flip side, they can be, do, or have anything that they choose. And recognizing this presence in, as, and through everything in their lives. There is no spot where God is not. We recognize the love, the joy, and in that grief, there is still the presence. And I've chosen this path, and I'm not alone. And there is always help. And I am always forgiven. Always. Because I'm just doing the best I can with what I have and where I'm at. And I cannot ask more of myself. And I know each person is recognizing this in their own lives, that they're doing the best they can with what they have and where they're at, and they're open for more. More of all the capital G good that Ernest Holmes talks about. Good surrounding us so much that it bumps itself up against us in our daily lives. So it is. Christopher will now follow us up. Thank you.
Wait.
What?
Offering. Oh, thank you.
I'm announcing we're doing the offering.
We'll do, yes, perfect. So just to remind, when it is time for our offering, we have set the offering bowl in the middle. I believe in the gift of giving and receiving. So there are affirmation cards in the front of that on the table. I ask if you have nothing, you don't have nothing to put in there, I have to walk up and put a blessing in. That is consciousness, that changes things. Please take a card with you. And hold it. It's your personal affirmation card. There's questions on the back to go deeper if you want. So we're going to hear some instrumental music while you get your offering ready, and know that what you give matters. Thank you, Father. If anyone needs help in any way, shape, or form, just raise your hand. 12 bucks. So much for 2 ounces.
It is.
Can we crank it down, please? And I understand that many of you give by your phone or online. That's okay. There is no judgment here. That's why I said if you just want to walk up and get a card, that's fine. So I don't want you to feel like we're double dipping. Okay. All right.
Before we go on to announcements, we're going to have Marina and Gwen come up for a special presentation.
I'm not going to bless the offering.
Well,
Maybe we'll
Go
wait.
for it. Bless
Should I
the
bless the
offering.
offering? Okay. Let us all bless the offering. Let's put our hands towards the bowl. What we know God's blessing is everywhere. And we offer absolute thanks, gratitude, and appreciation for all that has been given. We know that it does good work. It does God's work. We are just evolving as a community. We are absolutely in love with where we are at. We thank the Masonic Lodge and for allowing us to share this space. We thank each person here for sharing their energy, their consciousness, their support, and love, and know that the best is yet to come. So it is. Thank you.
The anniversary.
Oh,
Happy anniversary.
Is that the place still anniversary?
no.
And I just briefly want to say that we feel so blessed that Reverend Joe answered our call. And we feel so blessed that we all finally get to see him in person. Because it's amazing. He's not just this tossing head on your screen.
Right.
And we so look forward to doing this eventually every week.
Yes.
So hold that in your hearts, and again, thank you for answering our call and putting up with strong leadership and working with us. And because there's a group of us that were in charge for 3 weeks or 3 years,
Yeah.
3 years, and I had a little trouble accepting the call as well. So lots of things are changing, and it's a beautiful thing. And we're so happy to have Reverend Joe and his beautiful family eventually joining us here, and we can build community.
Closer than ever.
Yeah.
Closer than ever. Thank you. Now announcements with Christopher.
Christopher.
Oh, sorry, that was me. You threw me off with flowers.
Thank you, Reverend Joe. By the way, on your year anniversary talk, I don't know about all y'all, but that was badass.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I'm here my name is Christopher McCardle, and I'm a practitioner here, and I'm going to be giving you the announcements of joy. Joy, joy, joy. All right, we do have a community care circle. There's a phone number you'll see of 8937 or 6702. And what that is it's if you're having hardship in your life, or if you need something, or you need someone to sit with you, or whatever the case may be where you need community, we have a community care circle. So call on our community. Just call that number and voila. Prayer requests, we have an email that goes directly to our practitioners. We all get those, and we do pray over them. If you would like a private practitioner session, you can also send an email at prayer@CSLSG.org. The next in-person service is on July 9th, same place, same that channel. The details will be in the newsletter and on our website. Is that all the announcements? Well, that was so easy. That's all I had to do. All right, take it away, Shay. Oh, wait, Zoom. There is no Zoom conversation today. Are we going to continue them eventually? Does it say on
Yeah,
it?
so in replacement of it, if you have comments or you want to bring things up from this talk, feel free to do that next weekend as well when we resume online. Or you can email me at revjoe at CSL St. George if you have any comments you'd like to share with me.
That's just the after service
Right.
Zoom meeting, but we still are broadcasting live through Facebook and on YouTube.
We just haven't mastered that right here and right now with what we have, so we're still working on that.
And then also, we do have cake.
Hey,
Cake and goodies and coffee and all kinds
we
of
can
stuff.
have it and eat it too.
We can have our cake and eat it too. So what, more announcements?
Yes.
Well, someone told me there was no more announcements. All right, next Sunday will be on Facebook Live and YouTube. Reverend Patrick Harbula, he's talked with us, or he's been a speaker before. Really good, powerful speaker. We had a really great Zoom meeting afterwards last time, but.
And he will do that again.
So we will have it?
Yes.
Okay, but yeah, because we're not live. And then on the 25th, our good old minister, senior minister, Reverend Joe Kovach, will be talking about personalizing the infinite. So good luck with that one.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it.
Now, I can turn it over to Shay, and if everybody sing along, and
Thank you.
Joe's going to say something.
One more thing. So I have the other practitioners. Bill, come on up front. I want to point out practitioner Bill has been in the back holding high wash, so holding positive consciousness over all of us. I want to thank him for his time. I want to honor Bree, Marina, and Alan for doing our streaming and soundboard. Yes, claps all around. Gwen in the back has been prepping all morning, getting our goodies ready and Carrie, so thank you, one and all for that. Who was taking care of the table? Was that you, Bart? Or Sue, somebody?
It was a joint effort.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody. Now, these are what we call our practitioners. We have a spot set up in the back. If you would like what we call our, what do we call it? I call it miracle member, but prayer. Prayer corner. We don't want you leaving with something heavy on your heart, especially talking about grief and so forth. So one of them would be available. Take a few minutes, readjust you in the sense of recognizing divine truth. If you want to go deeper, or you have questions about what is a full session really like, please come up. They're very personable. Ask us what that's like. Yes, you are personable. Because this is part of building our community, is supporting one another. And to me, this is really, really important. I wish we had a separate room to do that for a little more confidentiality. Also, I should have pointed this out last time, we have new envelopes. On the back of the envelopes is a place for prayer requests as well, or testimonials, because I want to hear and celebrate your successes. I know that your life is going to change. I have no doubts about that. So I just want to be able to share that, and if you feel so inspired that you want to share that, email me. Because there's nothing better than it coming straight from that person. All right. Anything else? Yeah.
Oh, I have an announcement. The name tags. If you're a regular person, well, you're all a regular person. Well, some of you are. But if you'd like a name tag with the lanyard, I will print them out with your name on it. So there's a little tin box on that table. Put your temporary name tag with the name that you want printed, and then we'll have them ready with the lanyard for you the next time we meet in person.
Awesome.
Cool.
I'm going to ask everybody to stand up and sing our last song with us. Let's walk.
We are going to celebrate being together and celebrate this new day. It's a new day. Today it's a new life. My way. The doubts they are no match for me. I'll take my faith and fly because I know that I am creating my own destiny. The past is gone. The past is gone. It has no power. fear. So I choose to grow, yes, I choose to die. This longing will not be denied. It's a new day, today is a new life, my way. The doubts, they are no match for me. I'll take my faith and lie because I know that I am creating my own destiny. Right here, right now. Right here, right now, I think that I am whole. There is nothing else that I need to know. So I affirm my worth, yes, I'm deserving of God's goodness abounding in love. It's a new day, today it's a new life, my way. The doubts, they are no match for me. I'll take my faith and fly because I know that I am creating my own destiny. As I believe it, so it will be.
Let's get it together.
All right.
Hey, thank you.